Welcome back to the Nerdrotic Podcast. My name is Gary Buechler. I come to you live from San Francisco, California, and I'm also from nerdrotic.com. And down in Toluca Lake, California, near Los Angeles, is Jon Reed. What is up, John?
How's it going, man? Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday. It's like a party.
Sunday. It is like a party. I was very excited about this podcast tonight. I really was.
Yeah, me too. I feel like we finally have a fun episode of stuff with a lot to talk about. Like we've had some good episodes, we've had some bad episodes. This is one of those where I feel like it also left us with a lot to discuss, which is what we like to do here. So this was like a blessing. I'm having a party both because I don't have to talk about Star Trek until January, and that's a good and a bad thing. But when it's like 9 weeks in a row, it's nice to have like a little vacation pop up in that time. But also because this episode was a really fun one to end the season on.
Yeah, well, you know me. If I had the time, I would do these every day.
That's true.
There was enough content. I love doing this stuff. Tonight's episode, as usual, as this season has been for the last 9 episodes, is a mixed bag. It's a total mixed bag. There was moments of pretty damn cool, and there was moments of cringe. And I was kind of hoping they would rally in the last episode. They were kind of hooking me in, John, with some stuff. But then and we'll go over it. It's just the weirdest. And I guess we could start with the writing.
Yeah, because that's the problem, right? Like in a vacuum, I think this episode was really fun. Like I look at this and everything makes sense in the context of Star Trek and what this show should be and what the universe is. And the episode it had some action. It had a lot of character moments. It kind of did everything we wanted it to do. The problem was that the writing is so inconsistent from things that have happened in the past, right? Like Lorca is acting completely different this episode than he usually acts. So like those little things seem like nitpicky things, like in retrospect. So like I'm trying to not let that dampen my excitement about a show that I wasn't that excited about in the middle of the season that I feel like ended in a way that makes me excited for what's about to come and didn't like piss me off more than like a couple moments where I was like, really, Klingon boobs, we had to go there. Like it just seems like they do some things just for shock value or to like get a discussion going, when I felt like they didn't have to rely on that in this episode because they had a lot of stuff to talk about.
Yeah, with the Klingon sex, let's not bury the lead here. It's the Klingon sex. Well, it's about damn time, I want to say. And is it wrong? I got a little turned on. And no, just kidding. And why didn't they just go all the way? I want to know more about Klingon sex. Is it like, I don't know, cat sex? Is there pincers involved? Or I don't like what's
You're looking for a very different show than I'm looking for, Gary. that's a different.
I thought this was an adult Star Trek.
Yeah, it's not quite that adult.
Hey, Brian Fuller had his influence. That's for sure. For sure.
Yes, he did. We got the Bill Quist scene from this show. If you guys are watching American Gods, we had similar gripes about like overt, like we're not prudes here. It just seems like they were trying to get people talking about stuff, and that's what bothers me, is like trying too hard. But so where do you want to jump in on this one, man? I really, really like, I don't know if we want to start at the beginning because there's so much to talk about that ending, even though it was telegraphed. This is about to go place very different than this season has been next season. Or do you want to start going into what happened with all these characters in the lead up to the ending? Where do you want to go with this?
I want to talk a little bit, just recapping from last episode. I remember messaging you going, because we missed stuff. Okay. Thanks to our brilliant commenters. We missed a lot of stuff because I haven't been living, breathing Star Trek for the last 20 years. And I read way too much in this episode. I thought we missed the fact that the planet, what was the name again? Paval or Poval? I forgot already. Had like the blue energy, right? So I'm like, God, that looked a lot like the blue sparks from the spore drive. And maybe this whole planet is like a spore drive planet. Maybe it's connected some way. And then wasn't. They didn't even go back down to the planet. So I read way too much into that. Let's start with Lorca. Lorca's been my favorite character throughout this, but just everything he did in this episode was like, and again, I didn't see who wrote this episode, but it's like they handed the each writer like an outline of like, here are the characters, just write this episode without telling them what happened in the last episode or anybody's character arc. You know, it's like they're not using a writer's room, maybe a writer's Google Hangout. I don't know.
It's very disparate, right? Like the Pavins, like were there to be something to protect, right? Like they were an entity that made this huge mistake to drive the two people together. Like Dakota Stanton says in the chat, it's a plot device, right? It brought the Klingons onto Discovery and vice versa. And Discovery cares more about theoretically protecting the Pavins than the Klingons would. So they have to figure out a way to both achieve their objective of like going, being at war with the Klingons, but also protecting this other society. So they basically just exist as like a damsel in distress for this episode.
And I got that pretty quick. But you pointed out in our pre-production meeting, like Lorca cared way more about the whale or less about the whale. Yeah, he cares about them and he doesn't care about the whale at all. Yeah, it's really inconsistent and weird, and that's come up before too, especially since him going against the Starfleet directive is definitely in character, and and a lot of the nodding crew members were down with that. We had a lot of nodding crew members, but we got some more lines. We did, and some of the I still am way more interested in like characters we don't know about, and that's maybe because I'm filling stuff in my head. But I want to know more about the robot girl and everything. But
yeah, we found out that cybernetic redhead is the pilot. I mean, I guess we already knew that, but we actually saw her pilot. Yeah, she said something. She's like, "It's gonna be a bumpy ride, guys," and then she like piloted them into like some crazy shit. So like, I liked that. I liked that we started getting a little bit more over the last couple episodes of that. But Lorca specifically, look, man, you echoed it perfectly. There's no reason that he would have this turnaround where he all of a sudden starts caring about something. Like all he's cared about up until this point was the war effort. He didn't care about the whale. He didn't care about the creature that was manning the spore drive before Stamets. He doesn't care about any of this stuff. And so now all of a sudden he cares about the Pavins because they need it for a plot reason. And that just feels like sloppy writing. So like in a vacuum, if Lorca is the guy who would care about the Pavins, the episode works perfectly, right? Because he's the type of guy who's going to try to figure out the best way to get around this situation where he has to protect these people who have screwed up and destroy these people who are trying to destroy them. But the show has set him up as a character who wouldn't care. And he would just go all out on the Klingons. Like he would just wait there and destroy the Klingons when they arrived. So, that's the inconsistency that bothers me.
I guess you could say that maybe he just was pretending to care so he could take on the Klingons because that's what he wanted to do, clearly. One of the things I did like was the crew kind of working together. There was still, I like the fact that him and Stamets weren't sniping at each other. This is clearly taking its toll on Stamets, and Lorca looked like he was pretending to care. He's like, man, I'm really concerned about your jumping, but can you jump 133 more times for me? I know,
just 133 times. That's crazy.
And then he sends him down to the doctor because they needed a data trail for disobeying their Federation order, which was pretty messed up. And that's when we find out that it's rewriting his brain. I didn't write it down the technical reason why it was like rewriting the white matter in his brain or something. So there's a in Star Trek scientific explanation for what he's seeing. But I guess we'll talk more about that in the ending. That's just on the surface.
No, let's talk about Stamets a little bit more. So Stamets is in a situation where he powers the spore drive and it's taking a toll on him both physically and mentally. His husband is the doctor, and so he can't fully admit to the larger ramifications. Like this is the last episode, right? Again, we have to talk about what happened last week versus what happened this week because it's very, very different. Like this week, he has no qualms about telling his husband everything that's going on. But last week, that was the big conflict. So, he's having these physical reactions to manning the spore drive, and he kind of has to decide whether he's going to keep doing it because he's an explorer and a scientist and he wants to see all these other realities that they're connecting to that Lorca shows him in this episode, or he has to take a step back, give the technology so that they can figure something else out and and basically preserve his own sanity and well-being. And obviously his husband wants him to do the latter, but his nature is asking him to do the former. So I like that in this episode he makes the decision in such a interesting way. Like you see him get fully taxed with the 133 jumps that he does, or however many it was, and then you see him kind of lose it mentally, like he's looking into these other realities, and so at the end of that he says, I think he kind of like took stock and said, like, I'd rather live in this reality in my life than sacrifice it all for this exploration. And he makes that decision. He says, okay, I'm just going to jump one more time. Sounds kind of like the addict that we were talking about a couple episodes before. Like maybe the spores are a drug to him in some way, but he says, like, okay, we'll do one more jump and then I'm done. And in that jump is when the whole season ends, where the ship is lost in a different potential universe, which is what it seems like would happen. So Stamets like is my favorite character at this point, because I feel like everything revolves around him. Like the show and where the show goes revolves around his science and what he's doing. And I think that that's really the interesting part for me to watch. Like I care less about what's going on with Michael and her reputation in Starfleet and the fact that she can take on a Klingon in one-on-one battle than I do about the fact that Stamets is like mentally exploring other realities through the spore drive of this Star Trek, through this ship, right? Through this vessel. So I don't know, where do you land on that? I find the Stamets stuff to be so fascinating.
Yeah, that's my favorite part of the show. I really, aside from my complaints of the spore drive and canon and stuff like that, and real quick, I forget that this show's making canon. I get all caught up in all that stuff, and I forget that, this is a prequel. So what, like it or not, it's canon now. Whatever it does, it's established. It's been my favorite part. One of the things a commenter mentioned, I think during our podcast last week, is that last week's show should have centered around Stamets. It was kind of tailor-made to center around him. It didn't. That's fine. I'm glad this one kind of did. And yeah, he's had the best character arc throughout this, and the most, I guess, realistic character arc, and an actual consistent character arc.
It's more consistent. Yes, it's the consistency.
Yeah. And he's a really good actor. Anthony Rapp's a really good actor and been in the news quite a bit lately. But as far as Star Trek, it's been kind of cool. I like this concept. I want to know more about it. It's messed up how Lorca, manipulated him too. I mean, that's the one part where Lorca was in character, where he was just very subtle, well, not so subtly manipulating, the drug addict to take one more hit. And that's where, that's kind of where this show is good. That's the one thing, you can't argue his motivation. I mean, they're trying to win a war, needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. You're trying to win a war, and trillions of lives are at cost at every time. So yeah, you might burn through your lieutenant and you're not going to be able to use your spore drive, but I'm sure he's thinking, we'll find somebody else.
Lorca's reaction was just like, you have to keep him alive long enough to finish this. Like he didn't really, again, it's like the whale, right? Like he didn't care as long as the objective was met. And it seems like Lorca does care. He just has forced himself into this mindset of like, I am the last line of defense, and if I fall and this ship falls, it's over. And the fact that the admiral wants to sideline him, or that he might not be able to, like, those things are the things that he thinks is going to lose the war. He's got the same Michael Burnham outlook, right? Like, I know better than you because I'm in it. So, you need to trust me, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to succeed here. And so, I don't know what his role is going to be next season, or the second half of this season, because I feel like, in this Lost in the Multiverse, he's going to be more and more needed, but he's also going to kind of degrade more and more as he uses this power, right? Do you think that's where they're going to go with it, or do you think they're just going to say, nope, no more spore drive?
I think he's gonna, just, if we're jumping to the end of the episode, I think he's done for a while anyway. I think this might be going towards, we talked about being lost in the mirror universe maybe forever, which would really turn around the show and kind of take away some of our complaints. I mean, yeah, the canon's still there and the relation to Spock and Klingons look silly, but maybe they're from the mirror universe, or who knows? Is it going to be like you said, a Lost in Space where they're just jumping, which is kind of like Voyager. But if you're jumping around universes, that's a little different.
It would be interesting. Yeah, totally. It'd be interesting if they never got a chance to bring the technology back to Starfleet. They've only been using it on Discovery and testing it there. And then before they can get back home, they get lost in the multiverse and they're never able to find their way back. And that's the reason why all of this stuff isn't technology that's in the rest of the series. It's not because it's classified, it's because it never made it back home. Like, that's an interesting story. I don't think that's where they're going to go, but that's an interesting story.
No, I think they're going to come back and this is going to continue in some aspect, but they're going to change. They are definitely going to change something. I think something's going to get changed in canon. And that's always been the rumor of the show from the get-go. It's changed and they've done tons of reshoots. So now I'm curious to what the original idea was, what Brian Fuller's original. I know that it was supposed to be just a one-off season, and that was it. But I don't know.
I don't think the anthology thing is happening. I think that this is its own beast.
This is its own thing, and it's looked at. And hey, this is looked at as a success with all the bitching there's been about Star Trek from us and other people. This thing's been a success. It's gotten a lot of attention. I think we should probably talk about the show's main character.
Yeah, let's talk about Michael.
Yeah, with Michael Burnham, I just remember just one line that stands out to me when she says, well, "Is this about me?" And I'm like, "Yeah." That's all I remember writing. Yes, this show is entirely about you.
Yeah,
but this
it was at the beginning too.
Yeah, this episode really wasn't. That was. And like we were talking, if this was the first episode of this show you caught, you would have been, oh man, what is all the bitching about? This is a pretty good. Klingons look a little funny, but they look all right. And they especially naked, and they spoke English. They used the translator.
Oh, that was so much better.
That was so much better. It's like they listened to us, but they didn't because they shot it before. But you can hear, I don't know, emotion, and you got the vibe that the general was just this braggadocious a-hole who probably hadn't really accomplished much other than painting his face and kind of looking badass. But he's kind of the guy who's just like ripped a bunch of everybody's technology. So he's kind of a schemer, like the Harry Mudd or the Harvey, the Mudd, of, the Harry Mudd. Yeah, I always want to say Harvey.
Me too.
The Mudd of the Klingons. And so they concoct the craziest plan. It kind of reminded me of the Game of Thrones plan to go get the White Walker. Let's think of the craziest plan that makes no sense we could think of. So we're going to go to a Klingon ship and we're going to take two people who have serious, issues with the Klingon. We have one guy who was tortured and everybody knows it. And I know he's acting fine, but I still would have gone,
Yeah, let's send the mutineer and the guy who's tortured by Klingons to a Klingon ship alone to put these football-sized transmitters down and that take a really long time to upload stuff and see what happens. Yeah, it's not the best.
So that's where they cut back on the technology, right? Like you couldn't have some little space drone fly and put it out on outside of the ship. You need to go inside. Okay, I understand. It's part of the script. I really like the nice touch of putting the Federation logos on top of the wireless routers that they're putting.
The covert devices that they're planting and hoping that don't get found. Large, huge football-sized devices with Starfleet branded on them. It was interesting choice.
And again, Klingon vessels are really easy to access and walk around in, and they're just they're not manned. I mean, that is a big ship, okay, and it is, and they found the admiral. She found the admiral, and of course she wasn't gonna it just went up a step every time. It's like, okay, we got to put these two things, and they have to be in separate parts of the ship, and we have to land, and we're going to take the two probably worst people we should send, although they are the most expendable. I will give you that.
Yeah, that's true.
And then we're going to find the admiral alive, and when we find the admiral alive, she can't use her legs. And then when Ash walks in there, oh, it's the woman who tortured him. And what's the connection there? And we will get into that. And he has this crazy PTSD. And Michael doesn't have time
Well,
for this stuff.
maybe PTSD. It's either a
Maybe.
PTSD or like a download, like a memory download or something. Like it. Let's just get into it now. Fuck it. Like
Sure.
he's Vok, right? Like this whole thing wasn't PTSD. It's the fact that like he's been probably mind wiped or something. He's been turned into a human from a Klingon, and now he's he may have even had like a relationship with this woman, right? And now it's all coming back to him in small bits, and he knows he has this connection, so he's like drawn to her in some way, the Klingon, but he also doesn't really know what's going on, so it's manifesting itself in like this crazy I don't know, PTSD looking thing, but like, right, like that's what's happening here. Either that or he's becoming a sleeper agent, or I don't know, but that seems to me like what's going on. It's crazy though.
Yeah, because at first I thought it was like a Homeland thing where he was tortured and just turned, which on face value it still kind of looks like. But I'm a dork, so I screen captured. I can't share him now. You know, I'll share him somewhere on our Facebook page or something like that. I screen captured. I'm sure other people have some of the torture scenes, and there isn't anything that outright looks like they're like turning him into a Klingon.
Yeah,
but
there's an operation of some sort if it's not torture.
Yeah, there is something going on there. I mean, you can take it both ways. So they keep it pretty murky. You did get a pretty good shot of the Klingon sex, though. You did. And just what his freezing up like that for that long, yeah, that seems like. So I've been watching Mr. Robot too, which may be dealing with downloading into minds and stuff like that, and glitchiness with that. So that could have been going on too, you know, a little bit of Mr. Robot and Star Trek Discovery.
A little
I think, what do you think of this though? What do you think, like, if, okay, say he's Vok, which we're all pretty sure that he's Vok, what do you think of that?
I mean, I think it's weird, right? Like it's weird that he's Vok with no motivation, right? Like we don't know why he would be Ash now and what his motivation is here. It doesn't seem like he knows what his motivation is. And we don't know who turned him in. Like, it doesn't seem like he turned into Vok of his own volition, or else he'd know his motivation and there would be no mind wipe. So, like, it doesn't make a ton of sense to me. But, you know, if they do it right, anything can be good, right? So, I don't know. I'm cool. I like Ash, though. So, I wish that we just got a badass Ash. Doesn't look like we're going to get that.
So the question I have is, like, did they physically make him into a human, like skin him or something? I mean, I don't know, or use some genetic technology, or just download his consciousness with Ash's and they're like coexisting in the brain, or maybe Ash is just dead and they revived him somehow, or got rid of Ash's consciousness and put in Vok's, and he's just getting memories. I don't know. This could be just a dumb idea. I don't know.
It could just be like stress free kids. It could just be a Manchurian Candidate situation where they kidnap this guy, and you know it's not really, he's not, you know, like who knows? Like, I like the speculation, but like none of it makes a ton of sense because they haven't really fleshed out the idea of what Ash is doing there in the first place. So there's no way to say like, oh, he's doing this because he's Vok. Right, like he's undermining them in some way because he's Vok, or he's fighting more against the Klingons because he's Vok and he hates the rest of the Klingons. Like they haven't done enough for us to know what Ash is trying to do to then say, oh, he's doing that because he's Vok. I don't know. Like that's how it seems to me. Like there's who cares at this point. Like
I know exactly, and even if they could, I mean, if we want to take it all the way there, if they could do that, why weren't you just picking off Starfleet officers and doing it to everybody and infiltrating Starfleet? I think that would be a big advantage, you know, unless they really just wanted to be left alone. And the Klingons are clearly, they're more advanced than the Federation, which I think is kind of a cool idea, actually. The Federation having to bond together and take on this just ancient empire that's way more advanced and maybe not as warlike as they think. They just want to be kind of left alone, or they're still really separated. So maybe it's like they feel it's a good time to attack them. I don't know. I feel like they could have gone into that more, but with having to read Klingon and hear people through their makeup, I mean, even when you hear the English through the makeup, it's super thick. I don't know.
Yeah. The makeup's a little tough to deal with, but whatever. At this point, like there was nothing we can do about that.
No, there isn't. But I can still bitch. It's America, man.
So same thing with Michael though. What's she trying to do? If the story is that Michael is trying to redeem herself, it seems odd that she would again challenge her captain when he says you're not going aboard the Klingon ship. She's like, yeah, I think I should. Like maybe she did it a little more diplomatically, but that's the same shit that got her into trouble in the first place. And then she goes to the Klingon thing, has basically the same experience, only she's able to escape without anyone dying this time. And it's like, this is to me the weakest part of the episode because it is rehashing. Like they had so much more that they could have done with this. Like the potential was high because they're looking at something from the premiere and kind of redoing it after she should have learned something, right? Like if this is Michael's journey, she should have learned something. And it didn't show us very clearly what that something is, aside from the fact that Lorca is going to break more rules than Georgiou, right? Like that's the only difference here.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's my issue with it. It was cool though. I love the her exit from the fight. Like when she gets beamed out and she's like, that looked so cool. I don't know. I liked the idea of it. I just wish that we had seen some growth there. To me,
the only lesson she learned was she was right all along.
That
was it. That's the only thing we got. She got a do-over basically, and she's right. So that's the lesson she learned. And she even like had a smirky, like, see, I told you I could face, listen, on the outside, this show looks great. It really does. The fight scene was cool. The beaming, that nobody could bitch about the effects or the amount of money they put into like making this thing look really cool. And that's it's redeeming. That's what keeps me into this show.
Yeah. I love the away suits with the like Iron Man chest plates that glowed and the like. And they probably have done that in other
I thought that was going to be a thing too. I thought that these cover art, for one, the way he said it. Why would you say that? Like we're stepping onto to beam down to the Klingon ship to the transporter. And he's all, oh, we have these devices that mask our human life signs. Of course she knows that. I mean, she's been on a starship for 7 years. Why? They had to tell us. I understand, but I don't know. Maybe they should.
And again, I want to stress, like,
telling us.
I'm enjoying the show. Like some of the stuff that I'm saying I don't like about it is stuff that I wish that they would do because they have the opportunity to do. And like as we watch this, like I've worked on a lot of TV productions. I've watched a lot of TV stuff. I've studied it in school. Like this is stuff that I feel very strongly about. And so to see like small writing things that they could have taken advantage of, that is like the only downside to me right now, is that kind of sloppiness in the writer's room, and like everything else is at such a high level. So I think Michael is on an interesting journey. I just think that they had this half season to kind of go full circle. They had the exact same thing happen in the finale and in the winter finale and in the premiere, and we didn't really see any change aside from the fact that nobody died, and that was more of a random thing, right? Like, so it's those are the types of things. But I do feel like many shows we've covered recently, Legion, we weren't very happy with the second and third episodes of the first season of Legion. We came around on American Gods very slowly, and it ended really strong. Just like those shows, I feel like Star Trek has gotten into a bit of a groove here, and it's much, much, much better than, or at least I'm enjoying it personally much, much more now than I did in episodes 1, 2, 3, and 4. I think this when you compare it to the premiere, which had a lot of the same stuff going on like we're talking about, was way better than the premiere. It's
way better than the premiere. I liked the second episode. I thought that was pretty good. I liked last week's episode and the week before. But it's been super inconsistent. I mean, to deny that is, I mean, you can be a fanboy or girl of this show. Yeah. That's totally cool. That's right on. But we keep it real here. And I am a Star Trek fan. I've been one since it's the first nerdy thing I got into. I'm 48 years old. I've been watching it since I was 4. Okay, since it was being rerun down in LA on Channel 5 constantly. So huge fan. But I had a break, like a lot of fans had a break. I know there's a lot of ones who just kept reading the books and the comics. I know the J.J. Abrams universe is kind of split. Well, not split the fan base. The hardcore Star Trek fans just clearly don't like it. Some do. I like the first movie. I actually liked the first movie. I thought it was good. The other two, not really.
It's so funny because it's like the reverse of this, right? Where those movies, the acting was like the dialogue was really good, the acting was at a very high level, but then the story, what they gave us plot wise was not pleasing for a lot of Star Trek fans. This is almost the opposite, where like they've got a lot of interesting things going on, and the performances are pretty good. It's just that there's this inconsistency in the writers' room. It's funny. It's funny that they've overcorrected in some ways and undercorrected in others.
I think they're actually going to rally, and that's why the season is split. Though I mean, I know they've always planned that, but that actually buys them time to like tighten up the writing a little bit. And it's it's not all their fault. People left. Actors. There was wasn't there some actors who like bailed or.
Yeah, they had the conflicts of scheduling, and then they pushed it back, which screwed up a bunch of contracts. So they had a bunch of stuff kind of change on them midway through production.
And they've had management change stuff on them too.
Yes.
I could tell you this is going to be a he said she said thing, but my friend who is a doctor, he's my sponsor. His brother knows the president of CBS. So we were chit-chatting about this like 2 days ago. I didn't get any spoilers at it. All I know is they weren't happy at first. When they first saw that, they were not happy at all. And they made him change a bunch of stuff. So that is not from the horse's mouth, but a pretty trusted guy in my life. Okay. So yeah.
Let's talk about this then. I think that's a really interesting to talk about. At this point, right now, after this finale, which you and I both agree was like in a vacuum of a pretty freaking good episode of television. Is this we've been waiting for a Star Trek show for a long time. Is this now the Star Trek show you're happy with? Like, are you good with it? Like, I definitely was not happy originally. I was like, this is what we've been waiting for. But personally, I feel like now going forward, I'm happy with this version of Star Trek. I'm ready to go next season. Like come January, I'm leaving all this baggage of the early first season behind that I really didn't love, and I'm like ready to go. Where are you?
I'm in. Yeah, I was about to be out. I was like, you're gonna have to find another co-host because I don't want to bitch about the show all the time, and I still have some problems with it, but you can see that they're going to turn stuff around, and I really want to see this mirror universe stuff. That looks crazy. That looks fun.
I wonder if they're going to go universe hopping or if they're going to stay in one.
Either way, I love the fact that they have like a Klingon prisoner, and she's a torturer, and one of her victims is there, or possibly her lover. We don't know. There's really cool stuff, which I think it's got great potential. I mean, a lot of things have great potential and don't follow it up, but I don't know. I don't think, I think they're going to try to go, listen, every show wants to be Game of Thrones now. That's what everybody should, that's your template. And I don't mean like mega characters and sprawling story, but I mean just edginess of storytelling, main characters die. You're not afraid to kill off a main character anymore. Stuff like that. So I think we're going to get, shadows of that. And that's cool. I love that kind of stuff. So I'm okay with the dark Star Trek. I'm okay with the Star Trek with conflict within Starfleet. I have no problem with that at all. I just, if it's not good writing, and I'm not going to buy into it. So is this the Star Trek I wanted? No, we don't always get what we want though. But I think it could turn into something very cool that I could someday go, and you know what? We lived through that first half of the season, but this is an awesome show.
Yeah, I hope so. I'm fingers crossed on that one, but I'm definitely more bought in now than I was a few weeks ago.
Oh yeah, well I'll be back with you in January.
What did you think about the bad guy this season? Like the ship of the dead is gone. We had a couple different rules. Let's just call the ship of the dead. If Star Trek Discovery is the main character of Star Trek Discovery, the ship and everyone on it, then the ship of the dead is the bad guy. I'm oversimplifying here, but you know what I'm saying. How did you feel about the ship of the dead being the bad guy this season?
That was freaking cool, dude. That was like all the way through. Yes. I think putting your dead bodies of your enemies and your crewmates on the outside of a ship is badass, is 100% badass. That's straight up Mad Max territory right there. I love it. I thought it was really cool. So I was okay. The look of it was kind of funky, but the concept was great. And again, it looked cool. I got used to it. I was just always used to the birds of prey, but that part I got used to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where do you think they go with the next one? Like, we still have the looming threat of the Klingon War in the background, but they're now like lost in space. They're lost out there in the multiverse. Do you think there is going to be like a big bad going on in the background?
Ooh, yeah, I think it might be from within the ship. I think we're going to get, oh man, I was thinking of a lot of things when Stamets' eyes were glazing over and he's like, oh, it's so beautiful. I'm like, wow, what if he like becomes like Q or, I'm forgetting the name of the other omnipotent being from the original series, where the guy, one of the crew, one of Kirk's friends goes down there and he gets possessed and he becomes omnipotent and very dangerous. I think it's going to be Stamets. I think we're going to lose Stamets. He's going to, in some way or another, become godlike, maybe, possibly. I think that would be cool. The Klingons, I think, are out. I really think they're going to do this Lost in Space thing and jump around, unless there's spoilers out there that people know already. But I don't know any. I haven't read any. So this is just from watching this show without knowing any other information outside of it.
Me too.
That I think that's maybe where they're going to go. That'd be really cool. So there wouldn't really be a big bad unless it was within the ship.
See, that would be really interesting. When I heard the title, like Star Trek Discovery, I thought it was going to be a lot more like what I think they're kind of leaning into for the next half of the season, where they're like out there on the edge of space, coming across crazy shit and dealing with it, right? Like that's what I thought the show would be with the title they gave it, right? Yeah. So I'm really excited if they used this as a jumping off point for the series, and now we're done with that and we can go more into like a post-war reconstruction discovery vessel thing, right? So I don't know.
So we got basically 9 episodes, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with this, of build up into what we're going to go into, and maybe there isn't a big bad. Maybe it's just this crew learning to survive together out there with the possibility that they're never going to go home.
Because they have set up a very conflicted crew. You've got like a kind of crazy captain who's obsessed with war. You've got like a scientist who can see into different realities, and his personality has been fundamentally changed, who's married on the ship. You've got Burnham, who's a mutineer. You've got Ash Tyler, who he's either a sleeper agent or or an ex-Klingon. You've got a Klingon prisoner who has some relation to him. You've got a bunch of people who have been burned by Michael that she is now elevated above again in her status on the ship. And so like that's a very combustible group to be sending into a ship broken down on the edges of space type, or like a ship lost on the edges of space type scenario. So I agree. I think you're right. It's going to have a lot to do with this. You're right. The setup is actually, if that's where they go, the setup may be worth it, because that's there's some interesting dynamics at play going into the next half of the season.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how everybody kind of thinks of this episode, because I think we've got yes, I'm still critical, but the harsher critics are gone. I think like people who are really just original series canon, that's it. I think they're out. And the people who hung around are the people who are gonna hang around. I don't think that, like I said, I think I said this a couple podcasts ago, like the fence sitters are gone. So I'm curious to see how people are reacting. It seems positive. It really does. It's still split.
It's like still split in the chat
there, but I don't know if they're still watching or not. That's the thing, is I think they're just hating on plot points. I don't know, or maybe they are watching. I don't want to assume.
So we have a few dozen people watching and in the chat right now, and the majority enjoyed the episode. There's still some skeptical people. It seems like there are some people who really are digging this show, which I totally appreciate. It's funny because we're kind of somewhere in between, I think, both of us, where there are good things and there are bad things. Like with any show, it's leaning into the good things, I think. And I know there's a lot of Star Trek fans who are sticking with it because it's Star Trek and they're giving it the benefit of the doubt for longer than they might with something else. But I think generally people are saying this is a good finale. Do you think that maybe we're reading, as Langley says in the chat, maybe reading too much into this?
Yeah.
And this isn't, this ending doesn't really reset the show. It just is like, that's where we're going to pick it up at the beginning of next season. It goes right back to normal.
Langley, I will always be guilty of reading too much.
Yeah, that's what we do here.
Guilty. Guilty as charged. But yeah, I kind of hope not. I hope it's not just I mean, if they're going to go back into the war and do some more of the war stuff, that's cool. I'm down with that. I'd be interested in seeing that too. And that's certainly what they could be doing. But either way, I don't know. I love time. I love messing with realities. That's the kind of stuff I'm into. So I would kind of hope they at least do that a little bit. If we get a little of both, that's great too. I call that a win. As far as, just, I don't know, this show, I'm giving it the benefit of the doubt because it's Star Trek too. If this wasn't Star Trek, forget it, because there's better, like The Expanse is still a million times better show than this. If you're not watching The Expanse, watch The Expanse. But Star Trek's got such a great history. And there's actually what's been on television and on film, I've only not liked a couple things. And I'm rewatching Enterprise now, and I'm actually enjoying it quite a bit. So I should have watched, I was a different person when it came out. So that was a decade ago. So now I'm watching it now a little older. I'm like, all right, it's pretty cool. Now I am only watching the season 3 and 4 on Dennis's recommendation. And I kind of recommend it, John. I think you should watch it.
I might go back and rewatch all this stuff in the holidays, in the off season. It could be fun.
Yeah. And I even like some of the worst Next Generation movies. I've been very guilty of liking, I even like Insurrection a little bit. So sorry.
What do you think of all the action in this show? Is that something that I think they're clearly going to stick with it. I think that they think it's a format for success. And I think CBS is also thinking that that's going to bring in a lot of non-Star Trek fans. The problem with that is the problem is that you're not going to get non-Star Trek fans to subscribe to a new series to watch Star Trek. And so, that's, I think, the problem. If they were just flipping through the channels and they saw cool space fights, great. You might get some new fans, but you have to go out of your way to subscribe to this service to watch this. You don't have a lot of subscribers that, you've got a bunch of Big Brother fans that are subscribers, and that's about it. And so if you're trying to convert Big Brother fans to Star Trek fans, maybe that's the way to go. But I feel like you have to go out of your way to watch this show, and it's going to be harder to convert other people. So they should just lean in.
I think if I'm horrible holodeck episodes, if you're trying to bring over Big Brother fans. That's a great point. I think it's like you said, they had to sell this on a built-in fan base. So they used us. I'll say us as Star Trek fans. They used us, and they got us to subscribe. And now they went right back to their shareholders and competitors and go, look at all these numbers we got. And it was, I don't know what the number is. I know they needed 32 million for it to be, for a thing that they can really count on. And maybe they got that. That would be crazy. I think that's it, and that's just in America, because it's on Netflix everywhere else. I think it's somebody mentioned it's free in Canada. Oh, Canadians get it for free. That's awesome. Well, I mean, nothing's for free. You're paying for cable. So, and we saw an article earlier on, was it CBR, about it's time to
get over
the all access thing. Which I agree with the article, but it's time to stop writing articles that say it's time, please.
It's time to get over something.
25-year-old telling me it's time to stop something, I'll piss off.
The thing is that the point of the article is what we've been talking about, which is that this is the future. They're aiming toward the cord cutters, right? They're saying if everyone's cutting cords, we want to control our own content. We want to cut out the distributors so that it's cheaper for you and we make more money on it. So everyone's going to start coming out with their subscription services like Disney is doing. CBS All Access just happens to be the first one. And so they're okay with you subscribing just for a month to watch the show, because eventually they're going to have other content on there, so that when you're not watching Star Trek, there'll be another show that maybe you're interested in. It's just not there yet, right? So yeah, we do have to get over the idea that like these subscription services, which cost less than, or as much as one comic book or half of a movie ticket, that we have to kind of get over the fact that they're asking us to pay that for the content, because eventually we're all going to be paying that for lots of these things, and you're just going to pick the ones you want, right? This is just, I think, a little bit ahead of its time, because it's premiere content on a very new subscription service that we're not used to having, a subscription service that doesn't have a bunch of like reruns on it, which CBS All Access does. You can watch all the old Star Trek on it, so.
Yeah. But you can still watch it in other places though. See, I would have done the Disney thing and just brought everything in-house, like cut everything off. And I know they have deals in place and they can't do it. I will argue that it might be a little behind its time because Netflix and Hulu were allowed to come in. And I know they laid the groundwork, but this was the minute the internet was invented, this was going to happen. I mean, they've known for years, and there's people who make a lot of money who are supposed to be trend scouts, who are supposed to catch this stuff. Okay. And I think it was pretty clear when Netflix came along and started their digital streaming. I mean, we talked about it then, like, this is it. I mean, I talked when I remember when like I got back from my place and there was this internet out of nowhere. I'd been gone for a while and this internet popped up and I'm like, woo, this is the future. Everything's going to go through this. And that was in 94. So they've had time to think about this stuff, and Hulu and Amazon's like the quiet player in this that could like scare everybody. And they need this is out of necessity because their ratings are going down. Everything's getting pirated like crazy. And I think it is good that they made it relatively cheap. Like I think Disney's going to come out with like a $14.99, like probably out the gate. I mean, that's just pure speculation. John has told me nothing. Disney. Okay. John tells me nothing. But I think $5.99 is a good starting rate. There is the argument out there, if I'm buying so many subscription services, then I'm basically buying cable again. Yeah, but it's a la carte and you're actually getting what you want. I unplugged almost 2 years ago now, and I save money and I just kind of pick and choose what I want. And I do podcasts on TV shows. Yeah. So it is there. You want to talk real quick? Like, what'd you think of the series overall? We called it, how would you rate it?
It's so funny because it's like two halves, right? Like I would say since the midway point, I would give it like a good like B-, right? Like I would say it's watchable, it's fun, it's a good, well, it's not fun, it's a little dark, but it's a good show, like I have not texted you like this is just god awful since the first few episodes. So I liked the second episode better than the premiere. And then they kind of went downhill from there for me until midway through the season. I definitely think that the second episode with Harry Mudd was a highlight of the season for me. I really liked the getting stuck in time, inside the time loop episode. And then I thought this finale ended with a lot of really cool stuff to talk about. So I would say that it's like, it's still not at the top tier for me of shows that I want to watch, but it's like, it's not a show that I'm like, oh man, I have to cover this anymore. So, a good B-. I'm enjoying it. How about you?
I am. I believe it or not, I am. I'd C+, B-. I kind of like this last episode we saw. By itself, it was a pretty cool episode. Some stupid things in it, but they were kind of small. Michael Burnham's fight was cool. Like you said, that when she transported mid-leap, that was cool. All the
Stamets stuff, I think
the jumping around the ship was freaking awesome. That was awesome.
Yeah, that was super cool looking.
Even the quiet little scene between Michael and Ash at the end was cool, and that I was like, wow, they need more of this. That was cool. And then the Klingon prisoner, I think that's a really, remember I text you, I'm like, this is dark. When they showed the sex and stuff, I'm like, that is dark. I like that. That's what I like. So yeah, I would definitely it ended on a high note, and I liked this last episode a lot. So if we get more of that, hell yeah, then I'm in.
Awesome. So yeah, for all of our content, you can head over to www.nerdrotic.com or subscribe to us on YouTube at the Nerdrotic channel on YouTube. Just hit subscribe, hit the little alerts button so you know when we go live. It helps us a lot for you guys to subscribe and show up to these chats, especially live. So thank you everybody who has done that this season. We're going to continue to cover this as it comes back in January. We're also covering shows like The Gifted, Mr. Robot. We're going to be doing definitely Runaways. We'll probably have a little bit of content around The Punisher. We're going to try to get you content about some movies that are coming out, like Justice League and stuff like that. So stay tuned for all of that content. You can also listen to us audio only on the iTunes podcast app or on SoundCloud. You can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Jon Reed 16, JONREED 16. Gary manages the official Nerdrotic Twitter feed, which is at Nerdrotics. That's with an S on the end. Oh yeah, and head on over to facebook.com/nerdrotic podcast. There you can find all of our news updates, reactions. We'll post these links to the content that we are posting day to day. And yeah, I think that's about it. Oh, and Patreon. I just wanted to throw out Patreon. We know we still have to get the tiers up. We're thinking about creative stuff, prize packs, and special podcasts and stuff. But if you just want to head over there and pledge us some money, it helps us keep this thing going. We're going to make a pretty big push come the new year, so stay tuned for all that.
Yeah, quick news on that. Thursday I have off. I'm setting up the tiers. There's going to be 3, and there's going to be prizes involved in all, even the dollar one. Okay, so that's the cool thing. I also wanted to mention that John sees the chat. I don't on this, and if I hate the fact that it doesn't turn over into comments. So would you guys do me a favor and throw in what you wrote on the comments, and I can respond. I'm going to be responding to comments tonight, pretty much right after the show. If you could do that, I'd appreciate it, because I feel like I miss out, man.
I might be able to just copy it when the show ends and throw it into our. Yeah, I can do that actually for us. I'll pull them all. So don't worry about it. I'll pull them all over for Gary. But if you have any questions,
I'd like you to comment, though. Please comment.
It all helps. It helps us move up in the search engines. We actually have gotten to a point where if you Google like Star Trek Review or Mr. Robot Review, we're actually showing up in the top. So that's all due to you guys watching us and sharing us and all that sort of stuff. So thank you.
Love us or hate us, thank you for watching. We do appreciate it a lot, and we thank you for all the subscribers for subscribing. Yeah, that's really cool. It's been a fun month. Thank you, Star Trek. I have a lot to be grateful for with Star Trek, so that's cool.
Yeah, me too. American Gods and Star Trek back to back for us have been good times. So thanks everyone for watching this stuff, listening to this stuff. And if there are shows that you are looking forward to, especially new shows, let us know, and we'll try to cover that stuff for you. If we hear enough on a show that we weren't really thinking about, we'll definitely give it a good shot. So let us know.
We take requests. All right, John. Is that it, man?
That's it.
All right. Good night, everybody. May the small folks sing songs of your greatness.
Awesome, 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 awesome. Bye, everybody. See you in January or sooner.
See you in January. Yes.
Yeah, January.
Peace out.